Okay, welcome back to Cannabis in Canada with Jason Wilcox. It is definitely hot outside, obviously, making this many errors on the start off. It is, what is it here, June the 30th. Wow, right on the hump of going over the chain. Shit, that's not my protein shake. Yeah, I just wanted to jump on today. I was going to actually do a show later today, and I wanted to cover a couple. There's only really two big topics that I want to cover, and because they're so big, they need to be talked about in the proper context. At least the context that I see it. Again, we all have our own reasons for different views and different standpoints. But when it comes to government restrictions, there's a couple things. There's going to be 420, which we've often talked about, and we've often said, where's the money go? What happens with 420? There's been a lot of conjecture, and then there's been a lot of accuracy about what happens with 420, and we're going to be discussing that and discussing what the newspapers have to say about it and all that fun stuff. And the other thing that has really got me, and this is why I've got my 1,000 milligram CBD dose out here, is to really get into the discussion in the second half of the show, really about the 10 milligram restriction. And we're going to pull up the article from CTV that talks about the federal government now being binding these corporations, these 174 corporations put in place for recreational users, again, omitting medical. Don't worry about the person that actually needs 1,000 milligrams. And what bothers me the most is that the average gummy bear or whatever that you get at a craft dispensary, I guess you would call it now, they're anywhere between 400 and 800 milligrams of THC. I don't know how they're going to compete other than to throw every person that makes this into jail. And then it's not so much making it, because patients are allowed to have cannabis in all of its forms, including this. So it's not so much making it. It's really, it's if you distribute it. And that's the worst part, because if I know somebody with cancer, if I know somebody has their kid suffering from seizures and has MS, stuff like that, I'm not going to stand by and wait for the federal government to get their dosing right. That's that kind of stuff I want to talk about. Now, with the other one, it's going to be the crackdown on 420 and the money being made from 420, which is in the millions. And we've often talked about this, but never really dig into it. But CTV, they dug into it. And after speaking to a CTV reporter, I found it quite interesting to learn that they feel the BC culture is a lot more unified, I guess, and connected than maybe we actually are. I don't know. This is their take. So we're gonna have to go through it and kind of see it from their perspective, to be quite honest. That's really the only way I can do it. What am I doing here? Now I think I got to put this on this page, if I remember correctly. Yeah. Okay. All right, so let's go to the High Society's first article. Now, this was written on, what the hell is the date? It shows how many newspapers I read. I usually don't check the dates unless I'm going to be putting them on the air. June 14th, 2019 of this year. And last updated was June 14th. So there were some amendments. Nope, same day, sorry. Doesn't necessarily mean amendments. There was only it's about a half hour between. Anyway, let me send this over and you guys will see what I'm talking about here. So, High Society pot revenues prompt city demands for 420 payments. So, as we get into this, the dates I was looking at, the reason I look at this is because I want to know if they edited it or changed it because they were wrong, or if they may have been actually, forgot to add something that was right. Amending something after it goes public it can be detrimental and can be dangerous for everybody involved. So that's important to understand. So when we see here when it was published, now we get into it. It'll say financial documents obtained by CBC News shows millions in revenue for a Vancouver pot shop society that have prompted more demands from the city of Vancouver for organizers, the sprawling 420 event, to pay its costs. High marijuana incomes are a sign that pot protest is profitable, said Parks Board Commissioner John Coupar, I don't know how you say his name, adding that he expects the total money spent on police, fire, park, cleanup, and other costs to be more than $300,000 this year. It was definitely the biggest so far. I would love to see them write us a check. We could do a lot with that. Gardeners, lifeguards, all kinds of good stuff. Taxpayers are good on the hook. I don't have to read this whole thing. Now you'll recognize this name. So it says here, Coupar was reacting to reported income of Cannabis crusader Dana Larsen's Vancouver Dispensary Society, $7.3 million in 2017, and about $20,000 per day. The net income of the society is about $640,000, according to profit and loss statements obtained by CTV News. And I'm sure they got that through the Freedom of Information Act. It goes on to say, that's more than double the revenue in 2015. The documents show that last year the society $3.1 million in revenue and a net loss of $176,000. Total assets rose to $448,000 in 2015 and $1.25 million, the documents show. I'm an accountant, but it seems they have no good cash flow, Coupar said. I'm not an accountant, but it seems they have no good cash flow, Coupar said. The Vancouver Dispensary Society runs two storefronts. Vancouver Dispensary Society runs two storefronts in Vancouver and is distinct from the organization that runs 420. Larsen's personally in the organizer of the event. Said that his society does subsidize the event, which he says often loses money. I'm going to stay out of that one. Anyway, as a non-profit society, we donate our profits in our community, he said. And he said, now the thing about this is that Dana does donate money to different people. We know this. We've seen it done. And I would hope so with that much money being raised. But the article is there. You guys can read the rest if you wish. It goes down to show even his 2017, 2018, the city invoiced 420 about $170,000 for its share of costs, including policing. We look at these costs and we think about the millions made. It's like, people are making now money off what was what's supposed to be a protest, and I know that's from renting the spaces. And we've talked about this. It's something to look at anyway. It's something to read about, and let me get into why this really grabbed my attention anyway. This grabbed my attention mainly because of Mr. Larsen. As I posted up, John Conroy was ready to do a constitutional challenge and may still be doing it. I haven't spoke with John, but may still be planning to do a constitutional federal challenge that will seek an interlocutory injunction for the said plaintiffs, whatever dispensaries they might be, if that case goes forward. Now, Mr. Larsen could have led that case forward. And when I realized that he had this much money at his disposal, it makes me question why you would be scared of a $1 million case. Even if it all got hung on you, which it wouldn't, because the country would rally behind that craft dispensary model. I know that. I believe the patients do. But when it comes to leadership, there comes to trying to lead and not make money. And put yourself and your country before the money and the profits. So at this point, I just don't know. I've seen all the cries. People are, what do we do, Dana? What do we do? It's like, yeah, Dana, what do we do? You got two lawyers ready to file a constitutional challenge in your name, for your dispensary. But instead, you closed your doors. Something you said you'd never do. So, anyway, I'm not out to target Dana Larsen. I'm just making a point. I actually like, I like the work that Dana's done, and I've had the pleasure of sitting with him, and he did help the coalition with about a $10,000 donation to our group. A dollar for dollar challenge was laid down to our group that he will match dollar for dollar any donation. So that ended up being about $6,000. So he paid $12,000. Wasn't bad, or he ended up paying $6, so it ended up being a $12,000 fundraiser or something like that. I can't remember the exact numbers. Well, it was a pretty good improvised way of doing it, so I thought it was kind of cool, and it was good to be challenged. It was good to see all the medical patients stand up and say, okay, I'm throwing 20 at that, or I'm throwing 100 at that, because really it was 200, as long as they threw it at it, and they, because it became a challenge. Of course, I pin posted that shit on top of the group. But reading this, it makes us open our eyes definitely to 420. And this also is why they were saying this year, it's an event. It's an event. They're making money. This is going to come back to bite us. That's my biggest concern. Canada's Day is tomorrow, I think. Or maybe they're celebrating it today. I don't know. I'm not planning on attending this year. It's sad that our culture, when you take that paycheck from people like CLN, millionaires, people that came in here and just buy and steal intellectual property as they see fit. Good example would be expertjoints.com. I hope to see Craig come back, but we'll see what happens. But who owns his shit? Cannabis Life Network. Same people that tried to take my shit. So I think I should throw that in there, only because people do face right now a lot of bullshit with they're seeing their intellectual property getting messed with a lot. And anyway, sorry, I'm getting messages here that I don't fully understand. Oh, never mind. Okay, I should actually get into the chat here as well. Apologize, everybody. A sec here. If there's even anybody watching, it's funny because I didn't put a proper notice up that we would be going live, and I can't even see the comments. Oh, I only see one. Is this just showing a replay? This did not disconnect me, so I don't know what's going on with this one. I'm gonna now go to YouTube and check them. YouTube's usually a little more active. Oh wow, there's nobody on YouTube either. This is like a dead. Okay, I was smart then. Maybe 420 is the right time to do the show, because we seem to be dead in the water here. Yeah, quite frankly. If anybody can share this into Cannabis in Canada group, that would be awesome. It's one thing I didn't do. But now that I look at the time, 4 people, that's not a good number for me. Hey, it's good to see their Iron Horse. It's just weird that this is just playing now. Why can't it play in real time? It's weird. It's totally weird. That's probably why I need a dab and get back to normal life. I really want to just go fishing and put my rod back in the water. Once you have one of those sturgeon on, you really understand what it's like to appreciate, one, the fish, but two, to actually fight one. Yeah, I can't make this thing fucking speed up or nothing. That's weird. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, the other thing, now let's get into, I covered the part on Mr. Larsen, and that's 17 minutes into the show. So that's a pretty heavy drop on just my thoughts, because again, if there's millions being made, the least we can do is pay back the Parks Board. We don't need to have this kind of drama, with the city. And thank you, Norman. I didn't know today's not Father's Day. I thought it was last weekend. Yeah, it was last weekend, or something like that, I think. I don't know. I haven't been paying much attention lately. It's been one of those things. But a lot of people don't know that we are live. I was gonna set a show again for 420, but I really am thinking about driving out and putting my fishing rod in the water and just chilling, and maybe having a couple of beers and relaxing with my friends. But a lot of people, again, it's Sunday here, so it is what it is. But I want to talk about the dosing as well. Hi, Rob Klein, John M, Norman, whoever else is watching, because this thing's really delayed. I don't know who's watching, who's not. Oh, this is an old show. That's probably why. So I don't even see my new show streaming to Facebook. That's how bad this is. Weird. Says this video has ended, and yet I didn't end it. To everybody on YouTube, I don't know what to say. We're still running fine, but I'm gonna have to kill it. I don't know. We're gonna talk about these edibles because now we got a few people on. We're gonna get into the edibles. I should have let this go till 4:20, but again, if I let it go to 4:20, I can't go fishing. And I don't know if you guys once you, I mean, I didn't land this dinosaur that I had on. So when you got a 9-foot, several 100-pound foot fish on, or 8-foot or whatever it was. Hundreds of pounds of fish, and you fight it. It's just one of those things where you just want to get out and do it again. Between that and being around nature and just chilling, it really helps the soul versus sitting in the downtown core of Vancouver. Yeah, unfortunately, it looks like it's not working on Facebook, and I'm not sure why. I bet you it's because I changed. No, I should. Oh, I bet you I do know why. I probably need to. No, it went live. Okay, go live. You guys can't see me on Facebook because I didn't fucking go live. Alright, anyway, now it's live on Facebook. I apologize to everybody. Wow. There's always there's these new little features that you have to do when you're running both streams, and I'm like, what's going on here? And I'm watching myself fishing where that fish snapped off and I fell backwards. Remember, that's a 150-pound test that snapped. So that gives you an idea of the fish that we fight. And it's a lot of fun to get out there and do that. But all said, back in here now, at least into the Facebook part. That means I should be able to see it here now. That's my theory. Oh, it's still the old show. And anyway, when they look at the limits that the government wants to put on us right now, this is the other part I just wanted to touch on today, which is probably the most important, is going to be the regulations. Starting with the most important information, which is going to be this. Oh, sorry. Right here. Fuck. Screw you. Stop messing with me, spacebar. Alright, I'm going to go to here. Among the new rules, packaged edible cannabis can contain a maximum of 10 milligrams THC, the psychoactive ingredient of marijuana, and the products can't mix THC with nicotine, caffeine, or alcohol. Some edible products easily available for sale at the illicit retail stores and websites claim to contain 200 milligrams for a single chocolate bar. We don't claim it, it's fact. But anyway, that's if you want to look at the rules, you can click on that. I put these links into the show description, so you guys can look that up yourselves, and read it. But as we think about 10 milligrams, let me just switch off this camera again. Like I said, these links are in there for you to have a look at. But 10 milligrams. This right here is 1,000 milligrams. So what bothers me is that already Tilray and we've seen it. They've shown pictures on Instagram, on YouTube, on Facebook of 25 milligrams THC, 25 milligrams CBD being sent to Australia. So Canada gets 10 milligrams. Why? Moreover, based on what science, what anecdotal science, because there certainly isn't any new research. Canada cut research funding. It was Harper's second act when he was in office was to cut funding into this. So many of us, like myself, who've done research into carrier oils and binders and everything else, learning to work with cannabinoids and oils for optimal effect, certainly 10 milligrams, I would have to eat 10 of these vials just to get 100 milligrams, just to get 10% of what's already in this. Do you guys understand what I mean here about how bad Canadians are getting ripped off? Weekend warriors, yeah, they're going to get high a little bit. Kids, if they get a hold of it, yeah, they might get high. They have no tolerance. Medical patients continue to be omitted from this goddamn act, and it's wrong. Fuck. It's so wrong. I'm so tired of fighting. I actually shut down my Facebook account temporarily. Like, you can deactivate your account. I did that last night. I was just so fed up. I read through the messages. I hear you. But friends, you have to understand, the coalition took everything out of me. I ain't got much left. I'm looking to go back to work. I worked for this country and for liberty for free for 5 years to get us to the point that we can all grow. But people are scared to even smoke a joint. I'm down at the river with normies. When I say normies, I mean people that work for a living, and they don't grow. So they don't realize how cheap it can be. But they're also scared to smoke a joint because somebody might tell somebody else, the small town talk, I guess. Somebody might tell somebody else that somebody's driving high. And I'm like, you guys got to be kidding me. All these driving high tests are going to be thrown out. I said, do you worry about that with your oxycodone or your morphine or your Demerol or any other goddamn script you got, from antipsychotics to sleeping pills? We all got some sort of pill. And that can be well within our range. Shit, we can pop that while we're driving with a pop of caffeine. And caffeine is equally addictive to cannabis. Their Harvard study showed us that. When you want to talk about context of addiction. So context of addiction, cannabis is equal to caffeine. So it really makes me hard to understand this because, okay, let me take this a step further. As a medical advocate and activist, it's very easy for me to say, you know, this is so wrong because there are people with diabetes, for instance. So edibles with sugars, no good because they're going to have to eat 10 times the amount or 30 times the amount of what they should be doing, which is just one dose out of a vial. All because you want to monopolize and make money. And the worst part about all this is the stupid lobbyists that are getting these government pen pushers to actually write this shit. They're the ones starting a war between the underground and between the government's corporations. I should say the government's corporations. I should say the corporations that exist. Because they're going to be forced at 10 milligrams to fight us at 1,000 milligrams. And I tell you now, 92 years of reefer madness and going to jail didn't stop us. Do you really think that 174 corporations arguing over who has the right to give each other oil is going to stop us? Medically speaking, it's our job to do no harm. It's our job to help a fellow civilian if we think that they're in harm or in harm's way. And if we think that we're able to do better. I mean, we're not doctors, but we're certainly allowed to do that. I mean, shit, a lot of people, I'm down at the river and people are scared to hand each other a joint, and I'm reminding them, you guys could be handing each other an ounce in front of an officer and they can't really do anything. It doesn't mean you should. Picking a fight with the police is never smart. Never advocated for that, that's for sure. Shit. It's just been one of those mornings. Let me just take a break here. I'm going to come back to this edible thing because I really want to try and get into the chat. Share this around, please, if you can. This is an important topic for every patient because if you can imagine needing to buy 10 of these, you can't afford it, for one. You know, they're going to charge an arm and a leg. And two, 10 milligrams is never going to be enough. Not for patients. Weekend warriors, no problem. Shit, even my cannabis that I grow myself is stronger than what they're offering. I mean, we make our own oils and we've had them tested and they're way stronger. And the government challenges this and tries to say, no, they're not. Well, it's like, yeah, they are. In fact, do the math. Do 1 gram of isolate into 30 milliliters of oil and see what you come out with for the math per milligram. And let's see who knows what. This ain't hard. This is a simple mathematical equation. What's hard is what they're doing to Canada. Anyway, Coalition Documentary 101. I know I've been talking about this, but you know what? I learned fast that it's easy to talk that you're going to make a documentary. It's another thing to actually put it together. Filming it alone has taken 2 years, and we still got a couple people that are upset that I haven't been able to get to film them yet. Between that and everything else going on in my life, it's just been a little bit rough to get that particular part done. That being said, it's far from over, and we'll talk more about that when I return. But here's a little teaser documentary part, quick little 1 minute, so I can quickly adjust this camera and maybe get it to have. and I'll see you guys back. And this will show you some of the people. Remember, this is all unseen footage. So what you're seeing these little clips of is footage that we have probably 1 hour on each person. That's what we're editing up now and putting together into one documentary for all those core members that were involved. And if there are some that like Tamara Cartwright, Jade Ridge, others that were there in the very beginning, even yourself, Marco, in Toronto, I'll be down in July, at the end of July. You're also one of the founding coalition committee members, so I'd be happy to have your take on this if you're interested. So that's the olive branch I'm extending, and also to Alice Meriden. Dear, if you want to be filmed for the documentary, we would love to have you. You did serve for over a year with us, and that was tremendous. Again, it was a 6-year fight, or a 5-year fight, but it took a lot of us to do it, and no one person made it or didn't make it. It took us all collectively, and I'm proud of everybody that did it. So just know that I'll be in the Toronto region, the metropolitan area, at the end of July, and I'm already there to film a couple of people, so I will have my gear, and be happy to film anybody that took part in the coalition, either at our events. Some of the Ontario people I don't necessarily know are volunteers, as well as our Ontario representatives, because they worked with those volunteers. So yeah, that being said, that's what's going on. We'll talk about it more when we get back, and hopefully this will be a very, very short break. I'm going to try and be like Flash Gordon here. See you guys in a minute. Stupid fuck you, microphone. Fucking fuck. Sorry. Helps if I push the button. I figured if my phone was buzzing, there must be something. I apologize, guys. I didn't take the mute off. So, shit, what was I even just saying? It's probably good that you weren't hearing what I was saying. Anyway. Just give it a sec here to catch up, and you guys will be back on. I'm trying to monitor both chats, and it's just a little bit tricky. Now, what is the take from you guys? That's the question. Because you know what? I'm going to keep making my oils and giving them to who I feel I want to give them to. And I'm not sure what you guys are going to do. I apologize again for the sound. When I went to commercial break, I didn't unmute it. I came back and I was just talking. It was my fault. Sorry. We should be back on now. Anyway, dosing. Jesus. Dosing, again, 10 milligram dosing cannot continue. Patients cannot, if we sit back and just allow the federal government to do this, all that's going to happen is more and more people, like the new mushroom farms, you're going to have more and more people pop up. You know, the World Health Organization just reclassified CBD. I don't know if everybody's been paying attention to what's going on the world stage, not just here in Canada. We're the template, we're the footprint. If it works in Canada, it'll work in other countries. Only other countries are actually getting higher doses. As noted, Australia from Tilray is getting 25 milligrams of THC. Why the fuck is Canada only going to get 10 milligrams? Now, I know it's about making money, but my God, diluting it down to 10 milligrams and you think that's making money? That's outrageous. It's sad. It's outrageous. And then what happened to Save the Kids? Now it's okay for these multi-billion-dollar gummy companies to come in and work with these multi-billion-dollar corporations, or multi-million-dollar corporations, and they're allowed to sell gummies. Packaged the exact same as we used to do it. So when I said this was a monopoly, a bunch of corporations just coming in, it was. I never expected them to be this dumb. This is almost as stupid as trying to take our plants. Trying to set a dosing limit of 10 milligrams on edibles and oils? Not good. I'm hoping it doesn't apply to oils. I'm looking to you guys. I haven't fully read it. I mean, honestly, I've been focusing on fish like I am today. As soon as I get off this show, I'm grabbing my rods and I'm going fishing. So that's sort of where I'm at. To each their own. But it is what it is. Hey, Mike Gooch. I'll be in Ontario. I won't be up in Sudbury, that's for sure. I'm not driving in, but I will be. Shit. You're way up past Sudbury too. You're way the hell out there. I will be up in Hamilton region, but I won't be anywhere near your neck of the woods. You're way the hell up in northern Ontario. But it would be good to visit, Mike. I'm not really coming down for anything other than to visit with family and also finish shooting the Coalition documentary. There's a few more people we have to film and make sure we got everything right. And then, of course, the editors and people working on it are also, some of them are in Toronto, and some of the people working on the audio is out here in BC. So it's an interesting project. I was over facetious. I was too excited to say, hey, there's a documentary coming. I forgot how hard it is to actually make one. It's easy to film one person and just put them up on YouTube. It's another thing to actually film 12 or 13 people and try to chop that little sound bites up and make it all fit so it tells the story, but also covers sound bites from each person. It's a very interesting project. But back to dosing. I need to hear your opinion, guys. I'm watching both chats and I'm not really seeing anything. 10 milligrams. Okay? I got 1,000 milligrams CBD oil. So do the math. Okay? Figure out what 1 gram of powdered isolate CBD put into 30 milliliters of oil. Do the math and see what you come out to per milligram. Then ask yourself, why is it that the licensed producers are only doing 10 milligrams? Because this is available now on our regular shelves in most dispensaries that are still craft. So that is very important. So this is a big part of it. I need to hear back from you guys. Thank you, Rob Klein. So 2060 per gummy. Now here, I don't know if you guys seen my Instagram shit where I did the 800 milligram gummy bear, but it's just distillate. I mean, all they do is you buy a gummy bear and you take distillate and you shoot it. I've seen Tilray's distillate machine. I've seen the other companies with the distillate machines. That's all they're going to do. They're doing just what we did. Figure out the math, inject the shit in there. It's just they got lab coats and suits doing it instead of growers. And the only problem I have is that's not a free and fair market. That is a monopoly over the people. And making people that don't understand, again, I'm worried about, let's just say someone has diabetes and they shouldn't be having lots of sugar. Well, then they shouldn't have to eat 10 times the amount of oil and or sugar that they need to get the dose of THC that they're looking for to either stimulate their appetite, put them to sleep, or whatever the dose is. But the problem is they don't get the opportunity to updose. So it should be between you and your doctor. It shouldn't be Canada or the federal government regulating doses based on what? Again, I won't fucking play around with this one. Based on what? Even the Canadian Medical Association will not put down a dosage. They have a suggestion of 1 to 3 grams per dose. Prescription of 1 to 3 grams per day. That was their suggestion, based on the Israeli testimony in Allard, of all things. Volume. What's wrong with my volume? Gain's on. Volume's on. Volume's on. Any problem with the volume with anybody? Just some hearts maybe on Facebook. There's only a few of yous on there, but I don't know if you guys can hear me okay. I don't want to be cranking this up too loud. It's just going to distort me. So I got to be careful. So I switch it up here and take my volume back to here. Check, motherfuckers. Is that louder? I don't know. Just give me a thumbs up, please, when it gets louder. Got to go one way or the other. It doesn't actually say that, or else it doesn't actually say which way is up and which way is down. So I don't know, and I can't really keep focusing on it too much, or it's going to distract me from the show as it's doing. It's good on Facebook, so it must be good on YouTube. Then volume is good. Thank you, Fire Horse. What are you talking about, Justin? Alright, that shit really disrupts the show, guys. Let's make sure we got it. Reset your computers and stuff. Sometimes when we're doing this, what happens is the audio doesn't, hopefully it won't start overlapping. If it does do that, just reset your computer. This is what happens when we run these longer shows. And I'm also running to YouTube right now. Because again, covering the 420 story, again, the high society story, shows the millions of dollars that's made off 420 BC. So then there's 420 Toronto, there's 420 everywhere else. The smaller ones, they probably don't make much money because they're not that organized. But 420 BC with 80,000 to 100,000 people, and most of them buying booths, when you're paying $500 or $1,000 a booth, and there's 1,000 booths, just do the math. Then there's all the sponsors. They all got to pay money, like Cannabis Life Network, who bought the entire stage for our 25th anniversary, even though they're Americans that just came here, and they've got 5 minutes in our culture. Should never have been up on that stage. But, hey, Dana, you took the check. So, and they took Craig X. So, anyway, they did to that poor kid what they tried to do to me. And I hope they bring him back just to spite me, because they don't want to look bad, and it doesn't look good on CLN when more people start to speak out and say, look, they took his intellectual property, they took his Instagram page, they took his expertjoints.com, they built him, then they threw him aside. But you'll always be the founder. Don't worry. But who makes the money? The owner. Same reason I left those guys. Anyway, I'm going to stay on to the topic of dosing here. 10 milligram dosing, again, we've talked about this, we've looked at this, and it's a big issue. Let me see here. Edibles. All right, let me send this part over. This is just the end of the article, but it'll just give you an idea. It says here, he said, Health Canada, right here, this is where we all need to wake up and be ready. They're rolling stuff out. Everybody sees it calm and collective right now and thinks this is going to be legalization. They're still preparing and they're still rolling stuff out. He said Health Canada has 70 inspectors nationwide ready to synchronize everything from potency measurements to cleanliness of production facilities and acknowledge the regulations will likely change in the future. It ain't me talking anymore. I've been telling you guys, I'm speaking straight fucking truth to power since 2012, warning you guys this is their intention, is to friggin' abolish home growing and to make sure that it's so hard that most people are just going to buy their weed rather than go through all the friggin' paperwork and insurance and everything else they're going to need to fall under these new inspectors' regulations. Speaking of which, one of my friends went through this recently. I won't name him. I'll let him tell his own story. Some of you might know about it. But he got it in Ontario. He's a medical patient. But you know what the police said in Ontario, which I was surprised, because if it was, I think it's Manitoba or something, or Saskatchewan, I'm not sure, where you can't grow, one of the provinces, but it's not Ontario. But these police came in, even with a medical license, which they certainly can't do under federal license. You can't take down gardens. Even if it was recreational and they were over the 4 plant limit, they wouldn't be able to chop down all the plants. They'd be able to take them all but 4 and then charge you for whatever extra plants you had. I get that part. But what they did with this medical patient, many of you know him, he's a long-time standing member of the coalition and has done a lot for a lot of people and is now faced with a direct conflict over police coming in and saying, you can't grow in Ontario, medical or not. I don't recognize your medical license. This makes me wonder, once again, I've heard stories. Now, please, guys, if you're out there, ladies, please tell me if you're getting a license that should have been 1 year, if you're getting it back for only 3 months. Because that would suggest that they're going to make amendments. As I just showed you guys, they're planning on making amendments. I've told this to everybody. So has the vice president of the coalition, Kelly Colasanti. We both told you guys that this is coming. The federal government basically is just waiting for their ammo to arrive before they roll it out. They're training up their officers. So we can't win in court anymore under smell cases, because the officers will be trained in how to smell cannabis. They will be trained in what's legal and what's not. And that'll be the difference. And the sooner we wake up to that, the better, because if not, we're going to fail. Look at what they're doing with the dosing. They already know right now here, 2,000 milligrams. They're going to take this, and if you break 10 milligrams down into 2,000 milligrams, they're going to get 200 vials. You would have to take 200 vials to take, this is my daily, 200. It would take out my whole table. You see what I'm saying? It's just so wrong. And the worst part about it is, again, there's the patients with diabetes, there's the patients with cancer who can't have sugar. So these edibles need to be potent for those particular patients. A patient that is suffering from a seizure and is taking oil needs to have the right dose of oil, and it certainly isn't going to be 10 milligrams to stop a seizure. And I will argue that. Because that's like suggesting that hemp stopped seizures. No, it didn't. Now, when you extracted the CBD from it, yeah, you started to look at things like stopping seizures, and that's great. We realize high CBD strains can stop seizures. But over and above that, cannabis itself has a holistic 113 phytocannabinoids that have an entourage effect that we don't know shit about. And they're trying to actually restrict this and say, we're going to pull this back and we're going to do this and we're only going to allow 10 milligrams and you're just going to have to deal with it. And again, I'll put this back into context. 2,000 milligrams. Simply 2 grams, right? 1 gram in each one. So 2 grams. They're going to take those 2 grams of pure isolate, which you're not going to be allowed to buy, by the way. They've also banned that. So you need to have a connection to get your own isolate. But then you'll be able to make these, Add 1,000 milligrams if you want, because in your own house, in accordance with R.V. Smith and the Supreme Court of Canada, you can have cannabis in all of its forms. It doesn't say anything about dosing. But when it comes to sale, which means these 174 corporations and everybody that has to go through them is going to have to pay for a 10 milligram dose. So take these, break them down, water them down with all kinds of oil, and make 200, and you got your 10 milligram dose, and you got 200 vials. Do you see how much more money they're going to make? It's all about the money. Thanks, Rob Klein. Well, even oils at 30 milligrams. That's because I heard they're gonna cap CBD at 30 milligrams. My CBD 1,000 milligrams. My THC estimate 500 to 800 milligrams. Because this is a double infused. This isn't a triple or a quad. A quad infused get a lot higher. There's ways that we can infuse our own oils. We don't need special help. We don't need a laboratory, and we certainly don't need suits and lab coats, and we don't need to store our shit in vaults. I'm sorry, but cannabis is not a gun. You store guns in vaults and safety kits. You don't store cannabis. You don't store shit. Store my cannabis in a vault, but not me, but corporations. But heaven forbid there's guns around. Again, the reason I'm drawing this correlation is because the only other thing to have to be vaulted, like putting a big level 17 vault, like a big, huge walk-in bank vault, the only thing in the world that has to be kept like that really is guns, gold, money, drugs that have been seized, or drug dealers trying to protect their drugs. But cannabis isn't a drug, and it's already in a fortified place. So it's very curious to me why they made these vaults. Like, again, it's governing it like a gun. Right now, dropping this dosage, this is going to drive people away from cannabis. You're going to say, try this, and if they go try a 10 milligram dose or a 30 milligram dose, I don't even care, bring it up to 30. A 30 milligram dose of CBD or THC isn't going to work. Or THC, is 10 milligrams. Let's just see what these guys actually fucking say here. 70 inspectors. Among the new rules, let's just see what this says. This does get interesting because it's I'm going to send this over so you guys can see what I'm reading. Alright, so the government officially laid out the rules governing the legal pot production and sale of marijuana. They won't call it cannabis, so they're back to calling it marijuana. You notice how they spell it with a J now and not an H? I love how Canada just loves, undermining its citizens and making us, think we're that unintelligible that we can't catch little things like this, switching it back to a J. That should say cannabis. After all, it's the access to cannabis for medical purposes regulations. Marijuana is just a slang word. It should not be used in anything. But anyway, marijuana edibles, cannabis. Oh, there's a word, cannabis. So first there's marijuana edibles and then cannabis extracts. I guess there's a difference between cannabis and marijuana. Anyway, marijuana edibles, cannabis extracts, and topical products. So the new regulations will include significant measures around child-resistant packaging. And again, save the kids, don't even get me started. And plain labeling will officially come into effect on October 17th, marking the one-year anniversary of marijuana legalization in Canada. But that doesn't mean pot enthusiasts will be able to get their hands on legal brownies or gummies right away. Again, brownies or gummies. Sugar, sugar, sugar. Don't think about the diabetic. Don't think about the cancer patients. Don't think about the people that can't have sugar. Just think about your little 10 milligram dose and how many gummies you would need to eat. Like, just break out 10 bags and start horking them down and hope you don't puke. Not from the THC, but from the friggin' sugar. And not to mention how much weight you're going to gain. So this is just me banging on this because it's just bullshit. You know, it's the same brownies and stuff. They banned in Vancouver and said we're banning them because we have to save the kids from getting a hold of these edibles. But now that we're selling them, it's okay because they're in child-proof packaging. Fuck off. Sorry, Mr. Government, but I don't agree with your policy. The federal government says licensed cannabis producers will need time to get familiar with and comply with the new rules to create new product lines. Producers will also need to provide Health Canada with 60 days notice of new products. Edibles and extracts will be limited to a maximum of 10 milligrams THC per package. So I was right, it's 10 milligrams for THC, but I believe it's 30 milligrams of CBD. That's where that 30, I believe, you're correct, Rob. I believe there's a 30 milligram dose. Let me just see if I can find it here. See, and this pisses me off right here. Topical products will be limited to 1,000 milligrams of THC per package and will be subject to the same packaging rules. So 1,000 milligrams of something, as long as you're applying it to your skin and you're not ingesting it, you can have 1,000 milligrams of THC. But you should be able to access, now you may not need 1,000 milligrams, but you should be able to access products that have up to 500 milligrams of THC at least for medical needs. Again, medical patients have been omitted from this. This is to maximize money on their output and nothing more, nothing less. If consuming edibles, look for products that contain 2.5 milligrams of THC or less and wait to feel the effects before taking more, reads documentation. And it's like, you ain't going to feel shit. You're going to fucking want to throw it at the door before you're going to want to take more. I mean, that's just a reality. If consuming edibles, and again, remember, they're saying 2.5 milligrams. I'm falling almost out of my chair here as I'm reading this. It's like, are you guys actually kidding me? My dad drives 2.5 milligrams into me. You must be freaking joking. It can take up to 4 hours to feel the full effects of an edible cannabis. This is bullshit. It doesn't take up to 4 hours. You feel this in the first 20 minutes to 40 minutes, and within the first hour, you feel the full effects. And sure, you might hold those full effects, which we call, really topping out. You'll top out on your high, and you'll climb. You'll hit a plateau, and you'll hold at that high for whatever time and however good your medicine was made and whatever strain it was made with. Don't even get me started on strain specifics and how they affect, the outcome of each edible. But anyway, different strains for different pains is no different than each strain has its own set of phytocannabinoids, and each one produces a different result and effect. So therefore, cannabis made with one strain and then put into an edible is going to give a different effect than a different cannabis strain that's been put into an edible. Although the government doesn't want to talk about this, this is a reality. And then it says, this isn't the first warning Canadians have heard about edible marijuana. So they switch it back to the word marijuana again. See, oils are cannabis, but remember what I said earlier in the show. The World Health Organization reclassified cannabis to be medical, so they really can't call it marijuana anymore. I want you guys to think about what I'm saying here. This goes over and above the average talk, but it actually ties into our lives and the people messing with our lives, which is the federal government of Canada's policymakers and the lobbyists pushing them to continue to write policies that force us into positions like this. This is no longer a joke. This isn't just Jason talking. It's one thing if it was just me saying, hey guys, this is what's going on, I'd get it. But this is CBC, and this is the government basically telling us, look, this is what we're going to do to you, and there's not much you can do about it. So between all the rich people coming in and taking over our companies, our organizations, splitting up our organizations, I mean, it's just been nonstop. There's not much left of the BC culture. What was once a very strong and vibrant culture is now confused and doesn't understand, because a lot of them just are 9-to-5 people. They work for a living, and our government's treating them like shit. And when I put those people aside, because those aren't really who I advocate for, but as a social justice advocate, I do, I guess. So I advocate for them as well, but I really advocate for the medical patients that are being omitted. A good example of being omitted is not being able to get more than 10 milligrams, unless you come see me or you go see someone else that's willing to help you out. It's all going to come down to who you know, and that's not right. We've been legal for medical patients since 2001 after R.V. Parker, and 16 constitutional challenges, successful ones, to get to where we are today. So why are we still seeing medical patients being pushed to the side and omitted, doses being so low that they're not going to help a medical patient? They're saying, oh, well, it might take 4 hours for you to feel the effect. It's like, man, you're just hoping that they get sick or something in 4 hours to get some effect, because the effect would only really hit really low tolerance people, weekend warriors, people that work 9 to 5 and maybe want to get high with the wife on the weekend and watch a movie. Those people might feel your little 10 milligram dose, but I know I wouldn't. So, and I think we all need to take that as serious as possible. But it has been 1 hour on the mark, my friends, and I covered the two things I wanted to cover. Is there any other questions, complaints, anything you guys? I'm going to flip back over to YouTube here. Ladies, gentlemen, anything that you would like to discuss? I want to get my rod in the water. If you live in the Mission area, hit me up and let me know, and I'll tell you where our fishing hole is and where we're going to be. And yeah, who knows? Maybe we can just land a monster and bring it on. So, thanks, Rob. Actually, you know what? The thing is I've read the regs, but they keep changing them, and this is my problem. It's not so much that I'm worried about the regs as they stand. As they stand, I believe they're unconstitutional. As they stand, I believe that we need a lawyer that's willing to stand up and say, Your Honor, this is simply unconstitutional. Medical patients need more than this, and they need their own program. They need their own dispensing model. They need their own educational model, and they shouldn't be treated like everybody else. What they've done is they've lumped us all into one basket and said the ACMPR is now part of the Cannabis Act, and the recreational users are part of the Cannabis Act. So you're all fucked. And what are we all doing about it? Nothing. Back to our 9 to 5 jobs, continuing to grow our weed. Our brothers and sisters are going to face new penalties, harsher penalties, if they continue to work in the game. But welcome to legalization 2019 here in Canada. What can I tell you? It's one of those things that really, really, it's messed up. And I don't know how we're going to change it. You can see how much the coalition, though this is fucked up, I'm going to get it fixed. You can see how much it meant to me. I only have a couple tattoos. The one above it's my daughter. So that was a big time. We changed. We showed that if we can all come together and we can stand and fight. And I'm sorry that the millionaires like Mr. Larsen doesn't want to put his money up and actually help fight, because he would only have to put probably 10 grand up to get Mr. Conroy to file this case. And this case could potentially protect all dispensaries in Canada in the future from medical dispensing of cannabis. And I believe this case needs to move forward. Unfortunately, fundraising ain't there anymore. People aren't really interested as much in the medical. And the people listening to it are thinking it's just a bunch of medical patients complaining. They don't realize that we paved the driveway to legalization. If it wasn't for medical patients, there wouldn't be any home growing. You'd be buying $15 grams all day long. They'd probably be $20 grams if it wasn't for the fact that there's home growing. They have to somehow keep their prices low enough to try to compete with us, but they can't. So continuing to be the voice of the underground, I'm not going to waver, and I'm going to continue to report on what I read and what I see. This is my 26th year of fighting for legalization, and the legalization we have is not what I fought for. So I seen a post a little while ago. People were saying, "Is 420 still a protest, or is it now a celebration?" Yeah, it's still a protest. What is there to celebrate? That we legalized, increased criminal penalties, increased the cost, made it harder to get a license for medical marijuana, and ostracized many Canadians in the process. You mean that legalization? It's not what I fought for 26 years standing in the rain. Some days it was really raining out. But it is what it is. I remember Mark and Jody a long time ago once saying to me, well, you know, that we can legalize and then fix it later. And I said, that's like letting the elephant in the room. Once you get him in the room, it's so hard to get him back out that freaking door frame. And we need to all think about that for our country, because that's what's coming at us. And that, you know, and what scares me even more is we have a lot less people tuned in to this aspect of what's going on, and it's making it easier for the monopoly to maneuver around us, set up their distribution points, and the criminal sanctions are huge. And I don't think a lot of people, because they do work 9 to 5 and they go home and they grow their weed, they don't realize that these new criminal sanctions means you're going to jail. You're going to do time for X number of plants. Now, Harper's mandatory minimums got ruled unconstitutional, but all these other Cannabis Act legislation, criminal acts, the increase in the criminal penalties, I should say, is something that we should all pay attention to. Anyway, guys, I'll be back next Sunday, and I will always be ready to talk. And remember, come to the show prepared. If you really want to talk and you really want to get into this, then let's do it. I do this show for one reason and one reason only. Sometimes I'll run it 2 hours, sometimes I'll run it an hour. It's because I care to talk to you and I care to get it out there. We have our sponsors and we have our friends, and we're proud to be in the top 10 cannabis channels on YouTube and in the top 10 cannabis channels on Facebook. Please check out our Cannabis in Canada Facebook group. You will not be able to find it. Facebook administrators, if you're on there, can you please post out the link so that people know where to click on and how to get into the group? And that will help, because, again, there's 10,500 or whatever like-minded people in there. That is not a place to buy cannabis. It's a place to learn how to use cannabis, how to grow it, and the many applications that we can use with it. And as we continue to explore the endocannabinoid system, I believe we're 10 years off even understanding all 113 phytocannabinoids. I hope more money goes into research and they stop looking at just THC and CBD. There's so much more. There's 113 cannabinoids. Again, THC and CBD may be primal, but there's still 113. And until we look at the synergistic effects, we don't know why cannabis makes us feel good, why certain strains work for certain people and not for other people. There's a lot of exploration we still need to do before the federal government tries to cap doses. Why would you cap a dose when there's no overdose limit? There's no limit to lethal overdose. You're going to put yourself to sleep if you take too much. And then you're going to be like, fuck, I wasted it. You know, you're going to wake up stoned the next morning still, probably. I've done that to myself. That's how strong this shit is. So, you know, it is what it is. Anyway, guys, I wish everybody a wonderful Sunday. Get out there. I'm going to go and try and catch a fish and get myself centered. And I hope that you guys, have a blessed up Sunday. And remember, whenever you're feeling really, really down, you know, in the summertime, whatever, if you're feeling down or if you see a friend feeling down, you know, reach out and help to pick them back up, you know, and stay strong. Always keep your head up and always stay lit, you know, and remember that things will get better. You know, we're facing a government that wants to monopolize our country. They've been working with this monopoly from the get-go. But we've now got a lot of people that have recognized them for what they are and are ready to fight back. So remember, we are a free and democratic people, and we are the land of the free and the home of the brave. And our Section 7 right to liberty has been upheld 16 times by the judicial arm. It's the political arm that keeps writing all this failed and flawed policy and forcing us to take them to court to prove it. On that note, this is Jason Wilcox signing out, and I love all you guys.